Hello, my name is Daniyaal and I am a cochlear implant user. I was born deaf and I started wearing the cochlear implant at the age of 2. I graduated in electronic engineering at the University of Nottingham, and now I am currently working as a system tester for a company called Resonate, which is a railway IT company. I am honored to be part of this CIICA Live today, and I'm here to talk about the future technologies and services. The existing technologies and services that is currently being offered to all cochlear implant on hard of hearing users, and what kind of technologies and services we should be expecting in the future that will help us live every day as comfortably and confidently as a cochlear implant or hard of hearing user. But just before I get into that, I was honored to be part of the I4HIP study session 2022 at Budapest, where I had the opportunity to meet many cochlear implant and hard of hearing from across the globe to share their experiences in their daily life, universities, and work. It was very interesting to see how they, in a different part of the globe, face so many successes and hardships in their lives. And it came to my realization how it is important to talk about the future technologies and services and how we can bring it into our cochlear implant or hard of hearing lives, especially for the younger generation. So we're talking about the advocating for the future services. So I highlighted 3 things that it is important that we face every day. So first, Sue did mention at the beginning of the CIICA Live that the number of cochlear implant users heavily fall in the age of 11 to 20 years old. This is the age where cochlear implant users is either in primary school, secondary school, college, or universities. This is where they have the most energy, but as well facing hardship. Where the cochlear implant, so where there's hardships such as accessibility within classrooms, group work, or the kind of support students get from the teachers or specialized assistants. Everyone has their own way of adapting their hard of hearing into their own everyday lives. And it is important to ensure that every cochlear implant user and in their surroundings, it is that they are comfortable and stress-free, ensuring that they are getting the right amount of support and services in order to be able to achieve their long-term or short-term goals. So let me just give you an example. So for example, in education, does the cochlear implant user need to sit at the front of the classroom, or does the teacher or the lecturer or the classmate needs to be deaf aware, or does the cochlear implant user need a support teacher to take notes? Every single cochlear implant user has a different type of issues that they face and different type of support they get. So in terms of resources, what kind of resources does the cochlear implant user need to be able to have in order to make their daily lives easier? And in the lifestyle, what kind of curricular activities or training is out there that can help individuals, mainly for cochlear implant or hard of hearing users, face in their personal or external issues, and how they can get out of their comfort zones, become recognized, and don't feel any discrimination from anyone. So what kind of future services should we expect? So in education, it is important that schools, colleges, or university is that they are aware that the student is hard of hearing and what support of they can offer. We need to make sure that lecturers, teachers, or many other students or anyone who works in the education organization are deaf aware. To resolve this must be some sort of any form of training and how they can help a cochlear implant user achieve their goals, achieve their education or their degrees. Being deaf aware make things so much easier, and it builds up a very strong relationship between the lecturer or the teacher with the cochlear implant or the hard of hearing user. It is a key thing that a lot of people miss out or don't recognize. We end up doing it independently, where we go to school, universities, and raise these issues ourselves. But we want to introduce this kind of services so that can help the education side, and the cochlear or hard of hearing user is prepared to make this kind of process very easy. At the moment, in some areas, it's kind of lacking, depending which education you're in or which university you're in. There are many hard of hearing or cochlear implants individuals who haven't received the right support to build their confidence, knowledge, being comfortable in certain settings, etc. So in the lifestyle side, it is important to have some sort of workshops for cochlear implant and hard of hearing users to bring the kind of lifestyle they need is to bring their confidence level up, receive a good kind of information resources and things that will help them decide what they want to become as they grow older. Having that kind of workshop, which can be a leadership program or becoming a young independent young adult or dealing with finance or a weekend getaway activities to build up their social skills, etc. This will enable a cochlear implant user for all ages to show their true selves and become who they want to be and build up their confidence and live independently. So just before I get into about the future technologies, I wanted to say something that is quite important, and it's a statement which is actually a known fact from the World Health Organization. It says that having a hearing loss, but this is not for cochlear implant or hearing impaired users. This is solely for a person who has a hearing loss. It can cost them billions a year. And this is important to know because we need to try to be cost effective in the long term. And the reason why I feel that cost effective is a key thing is because the resources that we can offer or that anyone can offer can be reused for all generations, from young to old. However, individuals being implanted is increasing drastically every year, and not having the right services can cost a lot more than billions a year, mainly for healthcare. To explain a bit more about what I've just said, just to make it clearer, let me give you an example. It's costing healthcare a lot to keep helping cochlear implant or hard of hearing users to tune their cochlear implant or their hearing aid devices and tailor to the certain individual to make sure they are hearing correctly. So in terms of that, it's just how we adapt in our surroundings. As we get older, our listening skills can change over time. It is important to have a long-term tailored support to each individual, and I feel that this is necessary because the common issues that we face can be dealt if we work together, and so we can make sure that we have a long-term sustainable services which can lead to saving billions and pounds and reinvesting it into a long-term services that we may actually need in our long-term run. So with regards to the future technologies, so first of all, we are so grateful to have a technology such as cochlear implants and hearing aids that enabled us to hear. But it doesn't end there. There are still many issues that we face in education, work, or in our social lives with using a cochlear implant alone. For example, a common issue that cochlear implants users face is hearing in many different forms and environments, such as in noisy environments, which can be public events, parties, concerts, being outdoors, to quiet environments such as classrooms, at a great level distances from the teachers or the lecturers, or you can be in a formal meeting, or even being with your own family. Every environment has a huge impact on the cochlear implant user, whether they are not to be able to hear clearly, or there's some certain distracting noises, or someone talking too quietly or softly, or depending on their accent. So the technology that we can expect is maybe have an opportunity to program your own cochlear implant to our own needs. I understand that we get a tuning on appointments that we get once a year at the hospital, and but I know that majority of us never really been 100% satisfied with the outcome of the tuning. So it would be nice to, whenever you're different settings, is to program your cochlear implant or hearing aid device to a certain extent where we can adapt and listen independently and confidently. Because end of the day, it's our own cochlear implant, and we know ourselves inside out how we hear and how we hear differently in different environments. So, but the thing is, maybe there might be an issue with tuning your own cochlear implants or whatever. But the most important thing that we need to understand is that getting the younger generation to play their key role for the future technologies. It's because we want to have them, to give them the opportunity to have the ability to make judgments themselves, to make the future better for all of us. This can be done by them, the younger generation, talking to their healthcare providers or their doctors on such things, how to make the technology better and the issues that they face. So hopefully, then one day the technology will become really, really good and it will keep going. There's another example I would like to share that would really help in education is live transcription. It is something that we all heavily rely on, even watching a movie, TV series, or live transcriber when you're in some sort of any sort of events. Um, but there are a few existing technologies out there, such as Otter.ai. We're not sponsored by them. I'm just giving an example. So Otter AI is a platform where you can automatically capture notes in meetings or lectures. However, because that's more note-taking application, live transcribing sort of platform solely for professional use, whereas we don't have a similar technology that we can use for our every daily lives. So it would be great to have a software in our phone or any devices that we use that can help us live transcribe that anyone's is speaking or talking. And it would be great to the special algorithm or program that can detect their emotions or how loud or quiet they are speaking. So it gives you that kind of impressions when you're communicating with one another. So this means that we don't need a friend or assistant or a teacher to repeat or to help us understand what's going on. Using this kind of future technologies will help us to become 100% independent. So just to conclude that what Steve Jobs said, technology is nothing. What's important is that you have faith in people, that they're basically good and smart. And if you give them tools, they will do wonderful things with them. So these are the technologies and services that we need, especially in the future and the long-term run. We as cochlear implant users need to have the self-esteem and confidence. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to use them. It is important to raise awareness and have an understanding about the future technologies and services we need. Otherwise, we're going to end up moving on with our lives and forget about it, and we'll never get where we want to be today with the future technologies. We want to be able to live as comfortably and independently with the technologies and services we need. That's all. Thank you very much.